welcome to our summer series talks. So the first topic is Upanishads, an introduction to Upanishads. So it gave me an opportunity to take Upanishads back and redo some research. It's a mind-boggling topic. It's so vast, and comprehending the whole Upanishad into 2 hours is a humongous task. So I'll try my best to do that. So we can only do a bird's eye view, like this can kindle some interest, and later hopefully this will trigger some interest in studying Upanishad, then we can study that in detail. So having said that, so when I was reading about Upanishad, the first book came to my hand was a brilliant book written by our second president of India. Who is that? Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. He has written a brilliant book, please do. He has written a brilliant book on Upanishads. He said, there is nothing in the world literature that can be compared to Upanishads in multiple sense. One is its sheer poetical beauty. So the other day Vijay was telling, right? How do you write this Upanishad? You have to follow a certain meter. You have to follow a certain style. The words has to be carefully chosen. So when you look at this poetry, the mystic poetry, it is mind-boggling. And it touches philosophy, it touches science, it touches art, it touches human life. So how can you compose something like this? Itself is a mystery. That is Upanishad, right? And this Upanishad dominated the whole Indian spiritual tradition. This was the fountainhead, and this was the major base in which the whole Indian philosophy is based on. The 6 schools of Indian philosophy, whether it is Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Vedanta, Yoga or Mimamsa, everything has its base in Upanishads. So anyone who reads Upanishad in Sanskrit, I added that prefix later after reading some English commentary, because the English commentaries can be completely confusing. But if you read that in original Sanskrit, you cannot but appreciate that beauty. So this is the glory of this Upanishad. So what we are going to do is a bird's eye view of the Upanishad. So I selected only 6 topics for today's lecture or discussion. So the first one is, what is this Upanishad? The word itself gives the meaning. There are 2 possible meanings for this Upanishad, and the beauty is that both the meanings are equally applicable. Second thing is, what is the relevance of this Upanishad? If this is a mystical poetry, I am not interested. Even as a student, I was not interested in poetry because it takes at least 5 times for me to understand a poem, right? I always used to think, why don't I write it properly? Correct? You have to read it and think it through. Then only you get the meaning. So, if there is no relevance in our life, why should we study it? So we will see that. And then, where exactly this Upanishad belongs to? It's part of our Vedas. So we'll see what are all the different portions of the Vedas and where exactly this Upanishad fits into. And we'll try to see how many Upanishads are there, what is the approximate date, time of this Upanishad, and who could be the authors. These are very difficult questions, by the way. Then finally, the different dialogues in the Upanishads. Means who spoke to whom. If it is Bhagavad Gita, it is spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. Like that, Upanishad. Who is speaking to whom? And then we will talk about what are all the 10 principal Upanishads. You might have anybody who goes to a study of Upanishad, they hear that like you have to study 10 Upanishads. So why this 10? And why these 10? These are important questions, right? You hear that there are a number of Upanishads, but why should I study these 10 Upanishads? So these are the different topics I thought I would address today. Probably this would give a bird's eye view. And then we will do a recap, and then we can have a question answer session. And if we want to go further on this, we can have a plan. That's the whole agenda. Any questions? And if you have a question, stop immediately and ask. I may not be able to answer everything, but at least I will say I don't know. Okay, so let's go to the first topic. What is Upanishad? Just out of curiosity, what is your understanding? Can I get one or two answers? Not Vijay. Yes.
It's the last portion of the Vedas.
Perfect. Excellent answer. Any other thought?
I've read the literal meaning is when you sit next to and.
Good answer. Yep. A teacher, right?
Yes.
Then what else?
This is better understood.
Yeah, please.
More dialogue with it. So feel free to just anything you have in your mind. Just say, participate in this discussion. That's
Yep. Any other answers? What is your understanding of Upanishads? You are all here to study Upanishads, so there is no answer is wrong answer. Rohitji.
I understood Upanishad is the original Vedas, and it's not very easy to understand, and that's where the Gita came in.
Yeah. Very good.
That's my understanding.
That is definitely true. It's not easy to comprehend.
Yeah.
Any other thought? The beauty of the Sanskrit language is that a word itself will tell the story. Any other language, you pick a word and assign a meaning arbitrarily, right? Sometimes it is due to cultural reasons, sometimes due to some other reasons, and sometimes you pick up two words from two languages and combine and then derive a meaning. But Sanskrit, the beauty is that always the meaning is derived from its roots. There are 2500 arbitrary roots, and from that root, using what pratyaya means the meaning will come out. So there are two possible meaning for the word Upanishad. If you take a physics book, what does that mean? It is a book describing a particular subject matter called physics. Correct? If a math book, if you pick, it's a book which covers a portion of a subject matter called math. If I take a book on artificial intelligence, it is talking about artificial intelligence. Any book is like that. If there is a book that describing a particular subject matter, I can call that book as a math book. Isn't it? I can call a book as physics book if that book is teaching about physics. I can call a book as medical book if that book is teaching or talking about that particular subject matter. So the word Upanishad came because it talks about a particular subject matter. So it's like physics book. I'm calling it as Isha Upanishad because it is talking about a subject matter on Upanishad. So what is that subject matter we are talking? So if you really look at the word Upanishad, it has three different parts. The first part is called Upa, then you have Ni, and then the third part is called Sat or Shad. So these are the three words. Upa plus Ni plus Shad is Upanishad. So it has three different constituents. So the root of this word is called Shad. And this root has three different meanings. And this root has added up with two prefixes. Upa is a prefix, Ni is a prefix. These two are added to the root called Shad, forms the word Upanishads. And the root Shad has three different meanings. One is wearing out, visarana, like wearing out, that is the meaning. The second, if you go to dictionary, this is what the three meaning you see. The second meaning of the word root called Shad is called putting an end to. And the third one is knowing. These are the three different possible meanings of the word root called Shad. And let's try to see the meaning of the Upa and Ni, and let's see when you combine this what is going to happen. Upa meaning what? Nearby. Upa, nearby. What is the nearest thing for you? Can I say that the galaxy is far away compared to sun? It's always relative. The distance is always relative. Just carefully attend, okay? Then otherwise this is going to go out somewhere. So the galaxy is far compared to the sun. I can say sun is far compared to the moon. I can say India is near compared to moon. I can say India is far compared to Europe. I can say Europe is far compared to New York. I can say New York is far compared to North Brunswick. I can say North Brunswick is far compared to this room. I can say this room is far compared to me. So who is the nearest possible thing for me? It's me, right? So upa here refers to you. That is the nearest object or the nearest thing for me is me. Isn't it? Logically true. And then what is me? The word me indicates definitive. So upa ni means that which gives definite knowledge about whom? About me, not about God or anybody. That which gives me definite knowledge of me. And when you look at the root, what is it tells? It put an end to all the ignorance about me. It helps me to know about me. It wears out all the ignorance. So the word Upanishad means definite, ultimate, true knowledge about me. So then now the question is, you may wonder, don't I know about me? You may know about everything else. Suppose you are driving a car. Suppose you are using a phone. If you don't know how to use that phone, I always see, like I brought an iPhone and gave it to my parents. So when I saw what exactly they use the iPhone, just to make the phone call. It's an underutilization of the resource. So if I don't know myself, what is going to happen? It's same like a 90-year person or an 80-year person using an iPhone. I'm not saying that every 80-year person is like that, but if I don't know about the working and the details of a tool, do you think that I can use it effectively? If I don't know how to read the dashboard of a car, the car will tell me that your air pressure is low, but you don't pay attention. If you don't know how to read the symptom of your body, that's a problem. If you don't know who you are, it's impossible for you to operate efficiently in the world outside. Forget about spirituality, forget about God, everything. So the ultimate knowledge or the essential knowledge each and every human being needs to have is what? Knowledge about himself. And Upanishad is something that gives definitive knowledge about myself. Does that make sense? So, how many math books is there? Many, right? So, how many Upanishads can be there? Many. Theoretically, many. Of course, there is a constraint, I'll come to that later. But any book or any body of knowledge which talks about myself is Upanishads, as per this meaning. And who gave this meaning? You know? Who gave the meaning I just said? I didn't invent this meaning. Shankaracharya, in his commentary on Katha Upanishad. If you go to the Katha Upanishad commentary, Shankaracharya explains what is Upanishad. And he follows the exact logical steps I just used. Almost 1200 years back. Understand that it is a body of knowledge which describes about yourself. And that yourself is myself also. I can understand myself better by studying Upanishad. So this is the first meaning. And the second meaning is what you just said earlier. So let's see that. So this is the first meaning. The word sat, it indicates an agent of action by the root sat. So the word Upanishad, right? That shad comes from a root called sat, and that sat means, I already explained, wears out, put an end to, or makes you know. The prefix ni means definitiveness, and then the prefix upa means which is the nearest. So the word Upanishad indicates that the nearest is myself. It's a knowledge about myself. And why this knowledge is given? There is so much of confusion about myself. What is your typical assessment about yourself? You are not happy 100%. You are not secure. Correct? You are not completely happy. Why you are going for vacation? Because you are not finding happiness here. Why? Means some people it is money is the security. For some people power is the security. For some people friends are the security. But I feel insecure. I feel unhappy. I feel not connected with the universe completely. So that's why I feel that I'm isolated, I'm completely separated from the entire creation. So is that the right knowledge? Right now you don't have to believe it, take it as a hypothesis. Upanishad is going to make a cognitive change. Probably that is the right word. Because it is not going to change anything physically, but it helps you to understand properly. When you understand yourself properly, you will find that I don't need to run after any other place for happiness. Because all of you might have heard, right? The happiness is where? Within you. Is that the case? Experience. Is that the experience? If happiness, some people cannot even sit alone. Right? They put music or they put TV in loud voice because they find themselves sad or not happy or not secure. This is due to a wrong understanding. This is what the Upanishad does. And the Upanishad in a step-by-step manner helps you to understand yourself. Because there is an African proverb. It tells if you know yourself, you will be happy. There is an African proverb. It's very simple. It's exactly the same thing. And if you read Plato's book, you will see the similar type of reference. And if you read any other religious book, you will get the same thing. Where is the kingdom of God? As per Bible, it's within me. So every religious book says this. But the beauty of the Upanishad is that it gives a step-by-step unfoldment and help you to understand this truth about myself. So this is the first meaning of the word Upanishad. I want to add one more thing. You may ask, do you find the same information in other places? Of course you find the same information in every book. So what is the uniqueness of the Upanishad? It is the teaching methodology. In a systematic fashion, like it employs various tools to understand yourself properly. This is one speciality about Upanishad. Any questions?
So the Gita is just another way of giving the lessons of the Upanishad?
Gita is a summary of all the Upanishads. Sarvo Upanishado Gavo, remember we studied. Doktha Gopala Nandana, Partho Vatsa, Sudhir Bhokta, Duktham Gidamridam Mahad. If the entire Upanishad can be considered as a cow, the most important product of that cow is what? Milk. So Gita can be considered as a milk came out of the entire Upanishads. And this Upanishad is not easy to study for a normal person. I'll just explain why. Even now itself you got that taste. It's highly metaphysical. So if it's not easy for an ordinary person for a transactional basis to live in the world, you don't need to study Upanishad. So sometimes what happens? A dummy book will be given. So Gita is not a dummy book, but a simplified version of the Upanishads. Because otherwise, how many Upanishads you have to study? So Gita is known as Gita Upanishad, as Suresh was explaining earlier. Any other question? Okay, so let's go to this knowledge. Why this? What is the speciality of this knowledge? It removes something. It removes all the sorrows. That is what the promise. When you know yourself, the benefit is you will see that all the sorrows will go away. So that is the benefit. It helps one to reach an uninterrupted happiness and contentment. This is the promise given by Upanishad. Not by studying Upanishad. When you know yourself, that is, it is very critical. Upanishad is making it very clear. You could be a master of all the Upanishads, quotes from Gita Upanishad and talks about all the Upanishads. But if you don't know yourself, the problems are still problem. Gita, we have seen that, right? So, it's like, I stopped the examples in the Gita class multiple times, so we don't have to go that. But very important, Upanishad is a roadmap or a body of knowledge that helps me to understand myself. And when I understand myself, you get an uninterrupted happiness, contentment, and energy. This is what the benefit is. See, and then why you think that the understanding of the sorrow, meaning understanding of oneself, is going to remove all the sorrow? Because Upanishad is saying that you don't understand yourself. You are a king, but you believe that you are a beggar. So there is a beautiful story related to Upanishad to illustrate this concept. I'm sure all of you might have heard the story. 10-man story, right? 10th man story. 10 students were going for a festival. So they had to cross a river in between. And they crossed the river. They just wanted to, there was a lot of flood in that river, means the river had a lot of current. So the flow was very high. So they just wanted to make sure that everybody is there. The guy counted 1, 2, 3, 4. How many people? 9. What was the conclusion?
One person is missing.
Drowned. Then the second person said, no, you don't know how to count. I'm going to count. And he started counting. How many? 9. So they started crying, weeping. They got panic. They were anxious. They got depressed. Remember? Worry, anxiety, depression, sadness, everything was there. At that time, what happened? A passerby came over. What did he do? He counted. And what did he say? The person you are searching for, you are the person you are searching for. Did he create a new person? Did the passerby change the environment? He changed the weather, right? He didn't give them money. He didn't add any comfort. So what exactly was the cause of their pain? Ignorance. And what would be the solution for ignorance?
Knowledge.
Only knowledge. So this knowledge about yourself, Upanishad declares that it will free you from all the pain. Right now you don't believe it because you are still in that ignorant mode. You and I are still in that ignorant mode. When I say you, it includes me too.
The same story, after you study these Vedanta for after 5-10 years, the same story looks totally different. Yeah.
Knowledge mix.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now the second meaning of the Upanishad. So far we have seen the first meaning of the word Upanishad. Upa means near. That's another meaning. Nearest or near. It's more or less the same. Ni means sitting under. Niche, right? In Hindi you say. Ni means that's another meaning. The Sanskrit, the problem with Sanskrit is what? One word can have multiple meaning. The context sensitive grammar. That is the speciality of Sanskrit. So, Upa means nearby. Ni means under or under the guidance of. Sat means a master. So, sitting under a master, it's not that you're physically sitting under the master. It implies something. How can you study Upanishads? Go and take a book and read. I'll challenge you. I tried, that's why I'm telling. You will not understand anything. You will immediately conclude that there is nothing worth. Because it will tell, this is near, this is far. Correct? And then instead of saying that this is the right thing, it will say that it is not this, it is not that, it is not that. So the language is so poetical and mystical. And you cannot study this without the guidance of a teacher. So Upanishad means it is not that something you can read and study. It can be studied only by the guidance of a master. You have to commit yourself to a teacher and study under the teacher, then this makes sense. So that which needs to be studied under a master or a teacher is also called Upanishad. Okay. So we studied two meanings of the Upanishads. Can we summarize? First is what? It is the name of, it is a book or it's a body of knowledge on a particular subject. And what is that subject? It's about myself. That which gives a definite knowledge about myself is Upanishad. The second meaning of the Upanishad is that which needs to be studied under the guidance and the support of a teacher. This is Upanishad. Now the next question is, why this is relevant now? Again I said poetry. If it is for enjoying the poetry, I can read something different. Have you tried reading Shakespeare? At least it's only 400 years back. Even that appears to be mysticism for me, right? So imagine what is written 5,000 years back. It will be completely mystical. Why am I studying this? Am I trying to understand their language skill? Or am I trying to understand the poetic beauty of the Upanishad? Of course you can do that if you are a poetry fan. Of course. Who reads the physics book? Those who are interested in physics. Who reads biology book? Who reads fiction? If you are interested in fiction, you read fiction. You can reduce the temperature. Yeah. So, means all the subject matters in the world may not be of interest to me, right? I read poetry only if I'm a poetic person, if I have that poetic mind. I read only physics if I'm interested in physics. Why we say that everybody should read Upanishad? That subject matter dealt by Upanishad, is that applicable to everybody? Right? It is applicable to everybody. It is applicable to a person in Africa. It is applicable to a person in Wall Street equally. It is applicable to a rich person, and it is equally applicable to the poorest of the poor, who don't want to be happy, who don't want to be contented, who don't want to know himself. You go and invest your time and energy in understanding sun and the moon and the stars, but forget the fact that you don't know about yourself. Isn't it? It's a tragedy. How much time you give yourself, and you always ask for freedom. The UN proclaims that freedom is the key thing. But how many of you have freedom within yourself? You wanted to come to the class, but you are tempted to go to the movie. Most of the times, who wins? My temptation wins. I wanted to get up 5 o'clock and do workout, but my sleep wins. So do I have freedom? I want to do this. What I need to do versus what I feel to do. This is the Mahabharata battle. What I need to do versus what I feel to do. Who wins always? What I feel to do.
So is it mind over the heart?
Correct. No, it's the emotion, not even mind, right? What pulls you from the mind. We'll see some tendencies, some destructive emotions in your mind always win. So I don't have freedom within myself. And the only way for me to get freedom from myself is to understand myself. Without understanding, I will not gain freedom within myself. So this teaching of the Upanishad is equally applicable to everybody at all the time. And the advancement of the science and advancement of the technology hasn't changed this fundamental problem. This problem was equally relevant 5,000 years back. The industrial revolution, the IT revolution, and all these medical revolution, nothing has changed this problem, the nature of this problem. Yes, of course, now this is what I'm different from the traditional teachers. Yes, the way you express may change, some of the tools may use to communicate may change, and certain framework may change, right? The model used to describe the universe. You use a 5-elemental model in the time of Upanishad. Now we may have a better model with the science. So some of the models may change, certainly with respect to time, but the underlying principles, the underlying essence, that will not change at all. This is the beauty of the Upanishad. So that is why this teaching is equally relevant to everybody at all the time, till you get that freedom. So that is why all of us should study Upanishad. We are not studying Upanishad to appreciate the Rishi's poetic beauty. We are not studying Upanishad to show our Sanskrit scholarship, right? We are not studying Upanishad to quote the verses and gain impression on me. I'm studying Upanishad for what? To know myself. Just underline that. The goal of Upanishad is to know myself. Vijay's teacher and Swami Tadatmananda always used to say, right? One of the biggest challenge in this learning is your traditional learning skills. Why am I studying physics? I want to know physics. Why am I studying Upanishad? I want to know myself. I can know Upanishad. I can quote all the verses in Upanishad, still fail to know myself. So that's the goal. And I think he used to say in all the classes, right? If you come here to study Upanishad, you're wasting your time.
Can I add just a comment?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So just an anecdote. One of my nephew, he lived with me for 7 years, and then he the other day came. He's signing up for a new house, and then he came to me and he said, oh, "Baba, I want to see a bathroom." I said, "What do you want to see? You already know it's 7 years. He already took shower, right?" So now he's signing up for a house. Now he wants to know the spec of that bathroom. Now he figured that he doesn't know how what is there on the side. Tiles are there, something else is there. How high they are there. All the spec now he wants to see it now. So 7 years he took shower every day in the bathroom, and yet he did not know nothing about those things there. Now he wants to see that one. Was he blind? No, he was not blind. But he was blind at all, right? So no, Kailash, right? Kailash is a brother, father, brother-in-law, an employer or employee, right? A frustrated Kailash, a happy Kailash, right? A jealous Kailash, generous Kailash, right? All these things. So what is common among these Kailashes? What is the core of? Name is, I could have called it some other name also, this one, right? But is all these ones, what is the core of that, right? That is what he's going to learn about this, teach about this. What is the nature of that core person in you that is? That's what you're going to learn by studying this Vedanta. Right? What is the nature of that? Yeah. So when you study, you become a physicist. But Kailash becomes, there's no change in a Kailash as a person there. But when you study Vedanta, that core itself is transformed. Right?
No change. In fact, you know yourself correctly. It was a wrong understanding. So this is the couple of things, right? So typically, I feel that I'm a limited, constrained individual. Yeah.
There is one question. So how different is it from Ramana Maharshi's path of who am I?
Yeah, I'll come to that. So this is a good question, because I wanted to talk about that, all these things, because all these extended teachings, like it could be a Gita, or it could be a Vivek Chudamani, or it could be Shankaracharya's teaching, or it could be Ramana Maharshi's teaching, or Nisarga Maharaj's teachings, or Paramahamsa Yogananda's teaching. All these are based on the same theme. So all these can be called as Vedanta, which is of the same thing. So Ramana Maharshi's teaching is exactly the same thing. So different masters from time to time come and explain this. So, but all of them are ultimately based on this. This is known as Shruti. I'm going to explain that in a couple of slides later, but that's a good question. So my general feeling about myself is I'm limited, I'm constrained, I'm a sinner, right? I am completely isolated from the universal God, or God is completely different from me. These are my thoughts. When you study and understand yourself, you understand that you're not an isolated entity in the whole universe. Everything else is connected with each other. You're not at all a single isolated entity. The vision of yourself will completely change. You will see that divinity in everywhere, and you will see that divinity within yourself. So you will see a relationship among all the other people, all the other objects, and everywhere. Such a person will not be able to hurt anybody. That is the real ahimsa. We will see this in the 12th chapter of Gita. So you see yourself in every being, right? I cannot hate anybody. If I am hating somebody, who am I hating?
Yes, sir.
Myself. Because there is Isha Upanishad has a beautiful verse. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyetva anupashyati. The one who sees himself in every being, right? That is the nature we wanted to see. So you cannot hurt anybody. You cannot cheat anybody. So this is the vision that is going to come. And what is the biggest benefit on a selfish perspective? It will eliminate all the sorrow. So this is something that it's the most important knowledge everybody has to seek. So that is the importance of this Upanishads. Okay, so we talked about two topics. We understood the meaning of the Upanishads. We saw two different meanings, and then we saw why it is relevant for us. So now let's go to the next topic. So now this Upanishads, I always hear some people say that I studied Veda and Upanishads. So where exactly this Upanishad belongs to? That this is an academic stuff, but please study this. Don't make this mistake. Upanishads are part of Vedas. They say Vedas and Upanishads. Vedas contains Upanishads. That's what it is. So what exactly this Veda is? Vedas. What is the meaning of the Veda? Word Veda. It came from the root Vid, meaning what?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Vid means knowledge, to know, and Veda means a noun out of that meaning knowledge, a body of knowledge. What exactly is the subject matter of the Veda? It contains everything a human being can think about himself, about the world, and if there is a governing body between you and the world, call it as God or call it as reality, call it as Ishvara, whatever name you call, but if there is a governing principle above these two, that too. So it talks about Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. These are the three subject matter of the Veda. Jiva, anything you can think about these three subjects are included there. And top of that you have the Veda Angas, the limbs of the Veda, the grammar, the astrology, astronomy, right? The different aspects like the Niruptam, the etymology, all those things are there. So Veda is a vast body of knowledge given out by the universal intelligence or God or whatever you call for the upliftment of humanity. And Vedas is the most foundational scripture of the Hindu tradition. You might have heard that, right? So, who wrote Veda? Who is the author of Veda?
We don't know.
Probably not one person.
Yeah, but is there any, they say that it is apaurusheyam, that is the word used. Paurusheyam means what? It is written by somebody.
Non-human.
Apaurushi, non-human, right? That, what does that mean?
God.
God means what? Is that God came and wrote it in his hand? No.
God like, somebody God like.
So it is the inspired revelations. They say Bible, Quran, everything is like that, right? So it is revealed to a certain human being. The universal truth is always there. The best example is if there is a radio station, FM station is here. How can I receive that message?
It's due to the particular frequency.
Exactly. I need to have a radio set which can be tuned to that frequency. So there were some individuals, and we call them as rishis. Rishis meaning what? Literal meaning is seers. Seers meaning what? The one who can tune to that station. The one who can tune to that universal message of the God. They are called rishis. In their deep contemplation, what happened? These things got revealed to them. So they didn't wrote Veda. Rather, they just wrote what is revealed to them. You may say that this is unscientific. But in the scientific world, I can give you two examples at least. Madame Curie. How did she found? I forgot what was that? Uranium, right? Yeah. So she was working on something. She could not do it, and she slept. In the morning, she woke up. She found that the whole theorem was written. What happened? In the midst of the sleep, she woke up and wrote. The structure of benzene, right? Kekulite structure. Can you just give a 2 minutes update on that, how it came out?
Yeah, so this is the what is the structure of the benzene? You probably know it's a
C6H6.
C6H6 formula, and they didn't know how to write the structure for that. So, and Kekulé was working on this project, and he couldn't come up with it because carbon has 4 double bonds and hydrogen has 1 double bond, and yet there are only 6 hydrogens are there. There's no way that he can write the structure, that is. And then in the dream he got that is a snake going around, that is, right? That is, and then he put a 6-membered ring and alternate double bonds he put it there, and they're all in the delocalization phase, that is. So that's what
In an inspiration that came to you, like that, Vishwamitras and the Arunis and the Maitrayas, Yajnavalkyas, in their deep meditation, this thought came to them, and they didn't have the ego to tell the world that I created it. Rather, they just said that I'm immortal, but I just giving you what is revealed to me, and that is why it stood the test of time. Even now, with the advancement of all the modern science, nobody could say that this is wrong. It stood the test of time. It stood the test of scientific innovation, I would say. So that's the beauty. So this Vedas was revealed out of, in that inspired mode, it just comes to them. Even Krishna, even being the Bhagavan, he gave the Bhagavad Gita in that inspirational mode. When you read about Anugita, later portion of Mahabharata, Arjuna and Krishna was traveling, and Arjuna asked Krishna, can you repeat that Bhagavad Gita? He found himself helpless. So that means it got revealed to him. Beethoven, right, that famous symphony, he was asked to recreate. He couldn't. Da Vinci was asked to draw one more time the smile of Mona Lisa. He couldn't. So in that inspiring moment, something creative will come. Means I'm sure all of you might have that experience sometime, right? When you are deeply immersed in your work. Creativity, how to invoke creativity, only God knows. Archimedes, when he discovered this Eureka, right, means that, what is that? Loss of weight equal to the weight of water displaced. This is the Archimedes principle. How he discovered that? It just came to him. A.R. Rahman, how he discovered the tune of Vande Mataram in a split second, in midnight, 2 o'clock. I always give the other example, the Baskin Robbins 31, how it came. That's also in a beach. So this happens.
At a small level, even for us also it happens. Sometimes taking a shower, something you're thinking of some problem, suddenly you have a thing, right? It's not that you really thought through and that one. It just occurs to you, just happens to you, that idea just comes to that one. You have no clue actually how it got to you, that is.
I'll give one more example.
This happened to my cousin actually. I was with him in that exercise. He was sleeping and he had this programming issue which he's been troubling like few days. And suddenly he was sleeping. Suddenly he wakes up. I need a paper and a pencil. I need a paper and a pencil. He found the answer on the sleep. So
That's where the phrase "sleep over."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I think there is a beautiful movie. If you haven't watched, just go and watch. The man who invented the infinity.
Man who
knows infinity.
Yeah.
It's a story of Ramanujan. So Ramanujan was trying to, he never had the proof to support his theorems. That was his challenge. What was his boss's name?
Hardy.
Yeah. So he tried, no, this cannot happen. Without proof, there is no existence. He said, I cannot prove this, just God revealed to me but from goddess. And at the end of the movie, you will see that his boss also started believing in this goddess. Maybe this goddess is giving the he was an agnostic. If you haven't watched that movie, just go and watch it. It's there in Netflix. So this is how the Vedas came. And that is the beauty of the Veda. If this was conceived by a human intellect, naturally it will have the limitations of that human intellect. So this is what it is. And then, who received this information? Every other religion, all the revelation received by Buddha. What happened? That became Buddhism. All the revelation Christ God became Christianity. All the revelation Muhammad God became Islam. Like that. How many prophets were here? In that. A population of prophets. That's what happens. It is, who can you say that the physics should be, the entire physics should be from only one intellect? Just like that, the physics is the sum total of all the discoveries made by multiple scientists. Like that, the Vedas were the combined revelation received by multiple seers. And these people were called as rishis. Rishis means what? Seers. Seers means they can see what I cannot see.
Not with eye, but with the mind.
Mind. See means experience. That's it. So, and the beauty is that some of these rishis were ladies. Vivekananda, in his opening remarks of the World's Parliament of Religion, he tells, I come from a land which produced a population of rishis. And I feel more happy to inform you that some of these people were women. So there is, in the Yoga Vasishta, there is a famous incident. There is one king called Shikinthoja, and his wife was Chudala. This lady was so good. She gained this self-knowledge, and she tries to teach this king. And typically, what would be the attitude of the husbands? She doesn't know anything. So he ignored him, and finally she had to pretend like a yogi and come and teach him. And finally he got the knowledge. Then only he realized that it is this lady who taught me. The point is different. This self-knowledge is not alien to anybody. It can happen to anybody. You don't need to be a Brahmin. You don't need to be a Hindu. You don't need to be a like a man. Anything. It can happen to anybody. As long as you are committed and you have the blessings of the God, it can happen. Who is Valmiki? Who is a tribal person, correct? Who is Vyasa? Son of a fisherman. Who is Krishna? A Yadava? The one who gets reservation now for the standard. So all these people. Who is Srinarayana Guru from Kerala? Is a backward caste, right? So it doesn't matter. You don't need to be your jati, niti, kula, gotra, varjitam. This is what Shankaracharya tells in his Vivek Chudamani. Who is eligible for this? Caste, creed, religion, nationality, your gender, it doesn't matter. What matters is your commitment to the teaching. Okay, so this is part of this Vedas. So this Vedas is the foundational knowledge, and it is something that revealed to human beings. And we believe that these teachings of the Vedas are eternal. Eternal means what? Newton's laws of motion. Once upon a time, it was correct. Now, we know that it is partially correct. Tomorrow, we may hear that it is wrong. But the laws defined in the Upanishads still stands. So, it is eternal means from the beginning and of the time it is true. Second thing is, if at all we forget all about that, still it is true. Vivekananda was asked, when you say that a book is eternal, it is ridiculous. He was asked a question in, I believe, Milwaukee. Somebody asked here. His answer was beautiful. He said, when did the law of gravity was discovered? What was the answer? 16th century or 17th century? I don't remember. But whatever it is. Do you think the gravity was there before that? So the law that governs the human life, it might be documented at a particular period of time by a rishi. That doesn't mean that that law was not there prior to that. What a brilliant explanation, right? A genius like Vivekananda can do that. So this is what it is. It is eternal. And it represents, or it encapsulates, or it represents the whole revelation received by the rishis. We talked about this. And these are the truths. So this is about the Vedas. So now let's see the different divisions of the Veda. So the Vedas were compiled into 4. Have you heard of that? Rik, Yajus, Sama and Atharva. These are the 4 Vedas. Now each Veda were classified into 4. So the whole Veda was compiled into 4. Who compiled that? Vyasa. The name Vyasa was given because of that. Vyasa means what? Compiler. He is known as Veda Vyasa. The one who compiled Veda is Veda Vyasa. So he compiled that into 4. That is one categorization. Second categorization is each Veda is classified into 4 portions. What is called a Samhita, or then the second one is called the Brahmana, and the third part is called Aranyaka, and the final portion is called Upanishads. So these are the 4 parts. I explain this because to prove that what? Vedas. It is not separate from Vedas. So let's see what is mantra. All the rituals and the hymns, all the hymns of the Vedas are mantras. And Brahmana means explanation of these rituals, right? You may have a mantra, but how that mantra can you be used to invoke God? Putra Kamishti or Rudram. There is a process to do that. One is you may chant, right? Athatmanam, Shivatmanam, like you chant, but what you do with that? How do you invoke God using that mantra? That is Brahmana. Aranyaka means it is the philosophical interpretation of these rituals. People think that it is just a action and that's how it is being practiced. That's a different matter. So the philosophical interpretation of these rituals are called Aranyaka. So mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and the final portion of the Veda is known as Upanishads. Upanishads we already explained what exactly it is. So this is what? The 4 portions of the Veda. Okay, so we saw the meaning of the 2 meanings of the Upanishads, right? We saw the relevance of the Upanishad. We saw that Upanishad is a part of the Vedas. And we saw that the Vedas has 4 parts and one of that part is Upanishad. Clear so far? Any questions? Yes?
Sorry, I keep asking all these.
No, that's good.
The Brahmanas part, so it has nothing to do with the Indian caste system or anything.
No.
No, so,
Yeah.
so it's a clarification.
Yeah.
So it could be anybody who has
Yeah.
gotten that knowledge and that clarity
Yep.
of what the Vedas
Absolutely,
are about.
absolutely. There is nothing, means the caste comes later point of time. First of all, the caste is not that is being written there. Caste is a word later added, right? So what we call is Varna. And even this is not Varna. This is Brahmana is different, totally different. Unfortunately, these words have different meanings. As you said, it can convey a wrong message.
Wrong message.
Exactly.
Brahmana is from the root word Brahman, which
Right.
means
Right.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, we'll see that. In Bhagavad Gita, we are going to see in the 4th chapter, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. People conveniently omit the second portion. They will quote the Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam and second part they will omit. Guna and Karma. He didn't say Janma Karma Vibhagasha. That's a different matter. It's all political. It's being used for political purposes. And yes, I admit that somewhere along the line, this tragedy came to our society, which treats human being different from one another. This is not the message of Veda, right? You talk about, you're seeing everyone as the same. You cannot discriminate anybody based on, that's what I quoted Shankara, Jati, Niti, Kula, Varga, Gotra, Varjitam. This is what the definition given by Shankaracharya in the Vivek Chudamani for the self-knowledge. You cannot, and we talked about the Bhagavad Gita class about Manisha Panchakam. Remember that 5 verses which Shankara encounter with the Chandala. That is a beautiful one. We'll talk about that later. So now, Upanishads. So we saw that what are all the 4 parts of the Vedas. So first part is Samhita or the mantras, followed by Brahmanas, followed by Aranyakas. What is the end portion? So the Anta, right? Anta means what? Of Veda. So that's why it is known as,
Vedanta.
that is the traditional interpretation. Traditional interpretation is that which comes at the end of the Veda. Chronologically at the end of the Veda. There is one more implied meaning. That which is the goal of the Veda. Once you study all the Veda, why you study Veda? To understand yourself. So, that which is the ultimate goal of the Veda, that is also referred as Vedanta. So this is what the traditional definition of Vedanta. So then what happened? From this teaching, lot of additional teachings started emerging out. The first one was Bhagavad Gita, which is a summary of Upanishad. And then Uddhava Gita, Anu Gita, Hamsa Gita, Rama Gita. There are 6 Gitas at least. And then the Prakarana Grantha started coming up, like Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, Vivek Chudamani, Aparokshanupumi, Ramana Maharshi's teaching. Ramana Maharshi has 2 brilliant compositions. Anybody knows that? Upadeshasara and Saddarshana. These 2 are fantastic compositions. And more teachers started coming and teaching. On which subject? Remember, any book of physics can be technically called as physics. So even though the original body of Upanishad was only limited in the Veda, later point of time, new teaching started coming in, and they were also on a broad scale, people started calling it as Vedanta. So Vedanta is a broader term, refers to the subject matter described in the Upanishad, we can say that. So Bhagavad Gita is a Vedanta book, Vivek Chudamani is a Vedanta book, Ramana Maharshi's teaching is also a Vedanta book. That's an elaboration, extension. This is what your question was, right? Okay. So this is what is Upanishad as Vedanta. Now the next question is, how many Upanishads are there? And what is the date? And what is the authorship? So traditionally it is said that more than 200 Upanishads are there. 200 Upanishads. 280. In one of the Upanishads it is referred as 205, and another place it is 250. But as of now, traditionally we have how many of them discovered? 180. So 108 Upanishads are there. And out of that, a few Upanishads like Aitareya, Chandogya, Kena, Taittiriya, Brihadaranyaka, Isha, Katha, they are the oldest Upanishads. How did they measure it? Means there is no accurate measurement. How did they measure is only by looking at the language. So the Sanskrit spoken at that time, they just try to relate to that. That's all. So it is believed that these are all the oldest Upanishad. We don't have any idea. These are all much before Christ. That is only we can say. Unfortunately, none of these Upanishads, we don't have any author's name. We may assume that, for example, in one Upanishad it is said that Uddhvalaka said this. So we may say that this could be Uddhvalaka. Nothing more than that. So that's all we know. So the date, and then like from time to time new Upanishads started coming in. And even up to 18th century, some of the Upanishads, Yoga Upanishads for example, it composed much later. They are called as Upanishad only because any physics book can be physics book, that's all. So there are Yoga Upanishads, so that may not be part of the original Veda, that got added later. This could be a controversial statement, but
How do they relate to the 4 Vedas, for example?
no, all of them are not related to the 4 Vedas. So, and they're called Upanishad as very loosely because the subject matter is related to that. So the 10 Upanishads Shankaracharya commented is 100% it is in Veda. Guaranteed. But we cannot say that with other Vedas, I mean other Upanishads. For example, Yoga Upanishads, there are 4. That was added later. This is a little bit of scholarly stuff. Yep.
So why is it that Shankaracharya took only 10?
I'm going to tell that. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to answer that. It's there in my presentation. Okay, so some of the rishis we know that it is Aruni, Yajnavalkya, Balaki, Shvetaketu. These are all from the names referred in the Upanishad. They never stamped their name as the author, unfortunately, or fortunately. What does that shows? Here, before I write a book, what do? I took a patent and I put my name, right? There, nobody bothered. That's the greatness of these people.
And also perhaps the names themselves don't reveal that there's only one person, right? For example, Vishwamitra could have been Vishwamitra as a different mindset.
Yeah, that's also true. Yep. Vyasa could be multiple Vyasa.
Multiple Vyasas.
Yeah. And more than that, right? Their purpose was, why should I write my name on a book? Because the purpose of me writing the book is different. Either to gain money or to gain fame or to gain, to connect with other people. But their writing is only to help humanity. They just discovered that, they wrote it. Okay? So far, are we with the flow? Yes.
It's more maybe a bit technical in the sense that, so did these stand themselves as Upanishad, or was it like a later act? Like, let's say, does it say Chandogya Upanishad itself, or do we name it as
It's named after later,
Oh.
of course. So how does the Isha Upanishad came?
Yeah.
So the first word of this Upanishad mantra is Isha. Isha vasyam idam sarvam ech kincha jagatyam jagat. So somebody later point of time just said that this is Isha vasya. It's like the Bhagavad Gita chapter. Arjuna Vishada Yoga was never named by Vyasa. Later point of time somebody added that. Sankhya Yoga. So that classification came much later. Mundaka Upanishad. What is that? Somebody named it because it's like shaving the head, like just like that, clear, that easy once you study it. Each Upanishad is got its own name, that itself is a story. When we study the Upanishad, we will talk about that. Every name, how it came, it is there. So now, how did this complicated subject matter is presented in the Upanishad? So far, are we with us, right? The sequence is there. We talked about what is Upanishad. We saw the two meanings. We saw the relevance of Upanishad in the today's world. We saw that Upanishad is part of Vedanta and part of Veda, and we saw that Veda has 4 parts, right? What are they? Mantra, Samhita, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. Upanishad is the end portion of the Veda. That is why it is called Vedanta. And traditional Upanishad fits into that category. And later that was extended to any book that is referring to that subject matter. This much we saw. Good. So at least that flow you need to keep in mind. Otherwise, after the lecture, you will just forget it. Sorry, I'm just repeating it because of that. Okay. So now, how did this complicated subject matter is presented? It is in the form of samvada, they call it. Samvada, dialogue. A dialogue between a student and a teacher. It's a very special form of teaching. What should be the attitude of a student and a teacher? It is well written in our scriptures. They call, even the dialogue itself in our scriptures, they classify this as 4 different categories. There is Vidandam, there is Vada, there is Samvada, there is Tarka, and there is Vidanda. Vidanda is what? A said it, so B is going to say no. Politically, right? If the Prime Minister says something, the leader of opposition say, whether it is right or not, they won't look at that. If Trump says, the other party will say no. If the other party say, X will say Y. That is Vidanda. And then this Samvada means what? It is a meaningful dialogue. So I am talking to you, you are listening. You are listening with what? Not a critical attitude, with a faith. That doesn't mean that you are going to accept everything I am going to say. You have the full right to ask questions. But at least you should have the faith. Mutual faith and respect. This type of conversation is what is presented in Upanishads. Bhagavad Gita, you see the same, right? Arjuna asked all difficult questions to Krishna. 3rd chapter, it tells, Vyamishrenena vakyena buddhim mohaya sivame. You are confusing me. Correct? That freedom is given. And at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, 68th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, what is Krishna tells? I gave you all the teaching. Now you rationalize it and apply it. He didn't say, thou shalt do it. That's not the style. So it's samvada. And in the Upanishad, there are different types of samvada between the people. One is Varuna and Bhrigu, one conversation is there. And then Sanat Kumara and Narada, another conversation. Then you have Yama and Nachiketas. Which Upanishad is? Katha Upanishad. Very famous, that dialogue. Then Aruni and Shwetaketu, Chandogya Upanishad. Then Maitreyi and Yajnavalkya. Very famous dialogues. So this is between a husband and wife, by the way. That dialogue is there. So the Upanishads are always presented as student-teacher dialogue with mutual respect and always a tolerant attitude to take other person's view. That's very important. So that's how this is presented. The next topic, the Principal Upanishads. So there are 10 Upanishads are considered as Principal Upanishads. Why? Because the great master Shankaracharya wrote commentary for that. So now your question, why Shankara chose to write commentary for these 10 Upanishads? He felt that by studying these 10 Upanishads, the entire vision of yourself will be clear. Correct? So you don't have to study all the 108 Upanishads. If you go through these 10 Upanishads properly, it gives you the holistic picture of yourself. Because if you study only one of this, it will give you only a vertical slice. But if you study these 10 Upanishads properly, under the guidance of a teacher, you will get a complete picture of yourself. So these are Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna Upanishad, then you have Mundaka, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Aitareya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. These are the 10 popular Upanishads. Have you heard of any of this? Right. Have you studied any of this? Anybody studied any of this Upanishad?
I heard a little bit of
Katha Upanishad. Yeah,
that's one is a famous,
yeah.
I guess, too.
Yeah, that's fine because that's good. Okay, so these are the 10 Upanishads. Now let's take next 10, 20, 25 minutes. Just get a very, very high level overview of each of these Upanishads. And then we'll stop there. And we'll do a recap and we will open up for some question answer or some comments or discussion. And let's see what else we need to do with the Upanishads. We'll start one by one. So the first Upanishad is Isha Vasya Upanishad or Isha Upanishads. This Upanishad, how did the name got? Because the first verse talks about Isha Vasyam Idakam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat Tyena Tyena Punjitaha Ma Krita Kasya Siddhana. Brilliant Upanishad, short Upanishad, only 18 verses. It gives a clear understanding about the nature of the absolute reality and the relationship with the world. The first mantra itself tells that everything in this universe is a manifestation of that reality. So every wave in the ocean is a manifestation of water. Every golden ornament in the universe is a manifestation of gold. So everywhere, whether it is moving or non-moving, so are you not seeing God? When you see the creation, you are seeing the God. So that's the vision. And one mantra of this Upanishad is very, very popular. One meditation technique is there, like the 9th mantra of this Upanishad. It forces you to your final moment of your life. It takes you to your final moment of your life and asks you to just take a stock what you have achieved. So what would be my balance sheet? I cheated 5 people, cut throat of 10 people, and earned $5 million. What am I going to do with that $5 million? It forces you to think what exactly you have gained and why that mantra is given. If you realize that only at the deathbed, it's too late. So it forces you to think that. Kratosmara Kratam Smara. That mantra, if you want, means we'll talk about that later. Now there's no time for doing that, but it's a very, 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 very powerful mantra. So this Upanishad is studied in, if you are taking a professional or not professional, a serious study of Upanishad, this would be the first Upanishad you will be studying. Then what? The main purpose is to teach the eternal essential unity of the God, if you believe in God, otherwise we can call it as absolute reality. Absolute reality of the universe and between me. What is the relationship between me and the universal intelligence or the absolute reality? So that is very clearly explained. And one thing which struck me very hard with this particular Upanishad is there is a beautiful mantra. Hiranmayena patrena satyam, what you call this? It's covered, avarati, something like that. It tells. What happens is in the ancient days, right, if you, in your food store, if there is a huge store is there, how do you protect the store from the insects? What you do is you just create a small other place somewhere else, keep a few grains or whatever it is and put a cover. All these insects, in their struggle to catch that small piece of stuff, they miss the bigger store. Like that, I go after a little bit money, little bit women, little bit friends or wine or vacation. What am I missing? The reservoir of happiness. This mantra is very brilliant. It is again from Isha Upanishad. And this, the famous scientist, Erwin Schrödinger, who is the inventor of quantum mechanics, was so fond of this Upanishad, certain mantras. Because he wrote a book called What is Life? It is based upon the Upanishad principle. Imagine the one who came with quantum mechanics. Even for me to understand quantum mechanics, it takes years. That Schrödinger equation, it's a second degree differential equation. Only a few people can understand that. I tried 2-3 times and gave up. That much difficult it is. So he had a huge fascination of Upanishad, and this Upanishad is one of the first Upanishad that helped him to get that insight.
If anybody is interested, I'm sure probably you know it. What is Life is freely available on the YouTube. PDF is available. Yeah. What is Life? By Erwin Schrödinger.
Anybody wants, I can give you. Like the link is there. Yeah. I'll tell you what is. Yeah, what is available. So one of the chord from this Upanishad, all whatever exists in this universe should be covered, or it's a manifestation of the Ishvara. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. That brilliant quote comes from this Upanishad. And the mantra you use for meditation, Soham, right? In Art of Living meditation you can see Soham. That mantra comes from this Upanishad. Okay, so we will, early 18 mantras, it's very simple, relatively simple Upanishad, highly metaphysical, highly in line with the modern physics, you can see that. Means if you can go up to string theory or any theory, it will stay par with this. And Vivekananda describes about Upanishads, right? So he talks about one physicist, I forgot his name. Tesla. He would not even go to even a movie, but he used to stay for hours to listen to Vivekananda. So and Vivekananda actually at that particular point of time, the classical physics was the dominant physics. Einstein never came up with this theory of relativity. So Vivekananda had a good discussion with him, with this particular scientist, and he told him, can you prove that classical physics is not complete? He tried his best, but he could not succeed. But only in 1908, Einstein came up with this. But look at the, and Vivekananda was using the teachings of the Upanishads. He, exactly like Ramanujan said, like, I cannot prove it, but I'm 100% sure that time and space are not absolutes. You can Google the conversation between Vivekananda and Tesla. So, and actually in his book, he has written. Yes. In his autobiography, the scientist has written this. So that is How many Indians knows this? That is the pathetic name. Okay, so this is the first Upanishad. So let's go to the next one because we don't have time. Second one is called Kena Upanishad. So, of course, the Kena Upanishad, the name came from the word Kena. It means by whom. By whom. It's a beautiful Upanishad. It starts with, it will say that, what is the eye of the eye? What is the ear of the ear? By which the eye can function. Because, see, it's like the Drishya Viveka. Rupam Drishyam, Lochanam Drik, Tat Drishtum Drishyamanasam. 3 levels of perception. First, eye will capture your image, and that image will go to your brain. So, second level of perception is whatever image you captured by the eye is the object, and the brain is the subject. And the third level, what the image you represented in your brain is the object, but your consciousness is the subject. So, in a step by step, by who is the real seer? Who is the real perceiver? Who is the real thinker? That is what it is. And this Upanishad has 4 major sections. 2 of them are in verse form, and 2 of them are in poetic form. Sorry, the prose form. And like the verses in the poetic form, it talks about the absolute reality without any forms and names. Whereas the one with prose talks about the Ishvara. That is the topic. And finally, the quote, that which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended. No, that is the truth. You cannot use your eye to see the reality, but without the reality, the eye will not work. A bulb cannot illuminate the electricity, but without the electricity, the bulb cannot function. So there is an X factor, call it God, call it Ishvara, or call it Brahman, whatever name you want. But that reality gives existence and consciousness to every being. And the whole Upanishad is in search of that. That is the gist of Kena Upanishad. Another brilliant Upanishad. You want to add anything about Kena Upanishad? I think that is the first Upanishad you studied, right?
Yeah.
Want to add any comments?
No, it takes a lot of time. I think we
Yeah.
8 more to go, right? So
Yeah. No, it's a sort of quick overview.
I would love to share these ones, but yeah.
Absolutely, please, if you can.
Yeah, one Upanishad. Kena Upanishad, you can share a couple of sentences if you want.
No, I think
Okay,
that's
okay.
enough for now. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is called Katha Upanishad. Katha Upanishad is very popular. Out of all the Upanishad, you must have heard this. The fame means it is called Katha because it is based on a story. What is that story? There was one Rishi called, what was his name? I forgot. The son's name is Nachiketas. Father's name was Uttalaka, I believe. Yeah. So Uttalaka, one father, gave his son Nachiketas to Yama out of anger. Like the story is like this: he was doing a yajna and he was giving gift to everybody, and the son saw that. Son went and asked, to whom you are going to give me? And the father laughed 1 or 2 times, and then finally he said to Yama. The son took it very seriously. He went up to Yama. He waited there for 3 days, and when Yama came back, he felt sad. It's all mythological part. Don't ask me how do you walk up to Yama and all. That's not. Then you are missing the obvious. So it's like in the modern world, right? You put a whole great scientific work and give it for a professional review, and they reject it because what? One font was, instead of 7, it was 8. This is what happens, missing the obvious. So so Yama asked him, right? You waited here for 3 days. What do you want? He asked some bones. So as part of this bone, this boy picked up a discussion topic. What is the truth behind all these universe, etc.? And a wonderful dialogue happens. And you would see a lot of verses in Bhagavad Gita. It's a copy. a verbal copy from Kathopanishads. Example, Najayate Mriyateva Kadachit Nayam Bhukta Bhavita Vanabhuyaha Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya. Those verses are from Kathopanishads. And Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was so inspired by the Kathopanishad, it seems. The famous example of this chariot analogy in Bhagavad Gita is drawn from Kathopanishad. So the Bhagavad Gita, if you see Krishna and Arjuna and the chariot, there is a symbolism behind that. And that symbolism is explained by Kathopanishad. You might have seen the Ratha of Krishna. How many horses are there? Practically, is it possible to have 5 horses? There should be 4. So it represents the 5 sense organs. So there is a beautiful portion in the Kathopanishad called Ratha Kalpana. It tells an analogy of a chariot with a human system. It tells Atmanam Rathinam Vriddhi Shariram Ratha Evacha Buddhim tu Sarathim Vitti Manapragraha Evacha. Your body is the chariot. The horses are 5 horses are 5 sense organs. And the reins of the horse is what? Your mind. And the Sarathi, Buddhim tu Sarathi. Your intelligence is your driver. And who is yourself? The owner of the chariot. And then he gives 2 snapshots. If the charioteer don't have control over the chariot, what is going to happen? Is that going to end up in the proper destination? Collapse. One horse will go this way, another horse will go this way. So, because the reins or the charioteer don't have control. So, if the mind, intellect and the sense organs are not obeying the order of the chariot, it's a crash or a disaster. But if the mind, intellect and the sense organs are aligned, integrated, what is going to happen? You'll be succeed. So this example, the subjective aspect of the Mahabharata comes from this Upanishad. Brilliant Upanishads. And lot of psychological truth which is given in the Gita comes from this Upanishad only. And this Upanishad, everybody would have heard this quote: arise, awake and not stop till the goal is reached. Uttishtada, Jagrata, Prapyavaran Nipurita. Vivekananda was so fond of this quote. And there's next verse is there. It says that this path is not easy. It's like a razor's edge. You have to walk through that and be succeeded. Arise, awake and not stop till the goal is reached. What a brilliant quote, right? This is from Kathopanishad. Okay? So, next one is called Prashna Upanishads. Prashna means what? Problem, question. So the whole Upanishad has 6 questions. So that is why it's called Prashna Upanishad. These are the 6 questions. So these 6 questions were posed by the disciple to the sage, and the whole answer is the Upanishad. Right? From where all the creatures are born, how the whole creation model of the Veda is explained here. Then how many devas? Devas means how many sense organs support my system. Devas means that which illumines. Then what is the relationship between the prana, your life force, and the life? So the whole pranayama concept is explained here. Then the 3 different states of your experience: waking, dream and deep sleep. So that is asked. What is the result of meditating on the word Om? So that comes here. And finally, what is immortal in man, right? When you die, what is going to happen? That is explained here. These are the topics covered. Again, this is a very, very, very broad high-level overview, but I just wanted to give you a gist of the Upanishad. So that is, So one quote from the Atman, meaning from the ultimate reality, this life comes forth. That's a famous quote from this Upanishad. The next one is called Mundaka Upanishad. Mundaka means, what is Mundaka? Shaving your head. So it's as clear as shaving your head. It's easy. The brilliant quote of this Upanishad is, this is very kasminno vijnade sarvamidam vijnadam bhavati. By knowing one unit of sugar, I can understand the entire unit. By knowing what, I can understand the entire universe. This is what is puzzled Erwin Schrödinger. He said, my God, this is exactly in physics I am looking for. You can read this in What is Life. Kasminno vijnate sarvavidam vijnadam bhavati. By knowing which, how can I understand everything to be understood? I don't need to understand the need to do research for every sugar cubes in the universe. I just need to research only one. Even in medicine, right? You don't do the clinical trial in every human being. Enough sample is good enough. So like that, by knowing which, how can I understand the entire universe? So that is this particular Upanishad. So then it is part of the Atharva Veda, and it talks about the two different types of knowledge. One is the spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge, when I say don't get mystified, it is the knowledge about the higher. And second is the knowledge about the worldly knowledge, like the grammar or the mathematics or physics. And he tells that both are important. One is going to help you to live in this world. He tells pravritti and nivritti, right? And abhyudaya and nishreya. Like one is going to help you for the socio-cultural well-being, and the other one is going to elevate you. Brilliantly explained. That is in Mundaka Upanishad. So that's the key things in Mundaka.
Oh, that's really very profound. That is Ekam Vijnanena Sarva Vijnatam. If you study this one, you know everything else in the universe.
You're studying the essence of
Essence.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, understand the fundamental building block of the universe.
Yeah.
So knowing one atom, you know everything created by that atom. But is that atom the fundamental? No. Right? You go down, 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 by knowing which you can say that everything else is a combination of that. So it's a very systematic scientific, then you have to see the physicist, the best physicist of the world was perplexed. My God, how can they do this? So Mandukya Upanishad, very popular Upanishad with Gaudapada Karika, shortest Upanishad. I believe that only less than 10 verses, that's it. But the Karika means the commentary by Gaudapada is 100 verses. And then Shankaracharya did a commentary on the Upanishad and the Karika.
Gaudapada is Shankaracharya's
Charya's teacher, teacher's teacher. So this one forms the basis of almost all the meditation techniques we practice here. The cyclic meditation, the famous cyclic meditation we do is coming from this one. It talks about the stress management extensively, right? So the famous verse which tells by pushing and relaxing, stretching and relaxing your body, your mind can be calmed down. This mind-boggling teaching comes from this Karika. See, this is what is the progressive muscle relaxation and the Nobel Prize winning relaxation response by Herbert Benson, which came in 1960s. You can see the same teaching in this Karika of this Upanishad. And the glory of this Upanishad is, it is the first Upanishad that gives the explanation of the mantra Om in detail. A, Om, and the silence in between. Om. And it's brilliant Upanishad. 12 verses, that's it. 12 verses. It explains the consciousness, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and Turiya, 4 different states of experience. And it is said that if you don't have to study 108 Upanishads. If you you can study that 10 Upanishad. If you cannot even study that 10 Upanishad, if you are limiting yourself with one, study this.
Mandukyam ekam kevalam
Correct.
mukshunam
Yeah,
muktaye.
Muktaye, exactly. This Upanishad alone is good enough for liberation, if you are blessed. The famous quote is, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. And this is known as one of the 4 Mahavakyas. Popular statement from the Upanishads.
This is the last sentence in the book by Schrödinger. What is life? He proves at the end that the Atman is Brahman. Atma equal to Brahman. That is. Yeah.
Schrödinger was very much impressed with this also. He quotes from this. On that. Imagine, Schrödinger has no Sanskrit knowledge. He had to depend upon these poorly translated English version. And from there he got that much inspiration. Next is Taittiriya Upanishad. So this is part of Yajurveda, and this is divided into 3 sections. And the first sections deals with the science of phonetics and pronunciation, which is not very much interesting to us. But the second and third section talks about the knowledge about the Supreme. And the highest goal of this Upanishad is to know the Brahman, or the absolute reality, or the truth. And then there is a famous quote, Brahman is reality, knowledge, and it is infinite. Again, this is a famous verse. This is another brilliant Upanishad. Then Chandogya Upanishad. I took all these Upanishads in printed copy to show you, but I forgot to take that. Next day I'll keep it here. I wanted to show you a physical feeling. Next is Chandogya Upanishad. So this Upanishad, it follows the Samaveda. It's part of Samaveda. Samaveda is a meter singing pattern. So you can really sing with swaras. And then the last 8th chapter of the 10th chapter of the Chandogya Brahma. That is where it comes. See, remember the 4 portion of the Veda. So actually it's not falling into the end portion of the Veda. Technically it falls in the Brahmana part, even though we call it as an Upanishad. That's all technical. That's why just wanted to highlight it, but don't get crazy about that. Isha Upanishad is also like that. Isha Upanishad also, it's called a Samhita Upanishad. It falls under the Samhita. Ideally, it should be part of the Yanta, but it's called Samhita Upanishad. Then this Upanishad again emphasizes the importance of Om, because Om is considered as the most important mantra by the Upanishads. And that is mantra you should be meditating, and a few meditation techniques were given based on Om. And then it advises us to follow a yogic lifestyle, following the Panchamahayajna and with the pranayama, meditation, that type of yoga lifestyle it advises to follow. Because without that, you cannot experience. You see this in the Bhagavad Gita, exactly. Remember we said the Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga. So here in this Upanishad, you can see the emphasis on the Karma Yoga and the Upasana Yoga. The other Upanishads won't talk about that. They only talk about that Jnana part. Then it talks a lot about the doctrine of karma, the topic you asked me to talk. Somebody asked me to talk, right? You did that, yeah. Karma. No, that's good. No, I'm so happy that you said this, because even for me to compile this, it was very, very helpful. Then it explains like the human skills, like speech, your will, your ability to focus, all those things, and how those skills can be used to elevate yourself. Typically what happens, your skills you will use to fall down. So they say, right, in Malayalam they say Vallabhana Pullumayikam, meaning a skilled person, even a blade of grass can be used as a weapon. In our scriptures tells, right, for Shankara, even Kalakuda became a blessing. It became an ornament. But for a Rahu, what happens? Even the Amrita was the cause of his death. So, how to use the skills available to you to lift yourself? Emphasized a lot. I couldn't restrict myself with one quote. I was just trying to limit myself with one quote, but I had to do 3 quotes here. One is Sarvam Kalpitam Brahma. Everything in this universe is a manifestation of Ishvara. Everything, right? So how can you say that he is Chandala and I am Brahmana? Gone. So that is negated here. Second is what? Ekam eva advitiyam Brahma. One and non-dually one. That itself requires 1 hour lecture, right? Because I am one, but I am non-dually one, because my hands are different from legs. So one and non-dually one. Ekam eva advitiyam. Everything is same. This is the true Advaita vision. That is from this Upanishad. Ekam eva advitiyam. So then what is that? Tattvamasi. Everybody might have heard of this. That came from Chandogya Upanishad. Tattvamasi. Thou art that. I am. It's an equation, right? So equation means you are trying to show that A equal to B, and apparently A looks different from B. I don't need to say that 5 equal to 5. That's not an equation. Equation means that left hand side is apparently different from the right hand side. So you, a limited individual, is equated to the infinite reality. So how to solve that equation is the entire Upanishad.
Yeah.
That's it. Next is Aithareya Upanishads. This belongs to Rig Veda. So Chinmaya Mission has published an Upanishad series. So it's collecting everything from there. So this is good series. If anybody want to buy, this is
available here?
Oh yeah, of course it is. So Aithareya Upanishad belonging to Rig Veda. Just let's go one by one. I'm going to share a few PDFs with you, and you can all buy one book each when we study this. And then the Upanishad, how to focus your mind, how to, like when you attend a ritual, typically what happens when you go to Satyanarayana Puja, which is usual question, right? It's a socialization gathering. So the priest will go here and everybody, we all will chat behind the scene, and finally at the time of prasad we'll go and collect it. How to turn that? It's like how do you practice yourself along with the ritual? That is brilliantly explained in this Upanishad. Then it becomes meaningful. Otherwise, waste. Do you remember you were asking that question to Rajiv Malhotra? That is a beautiful answer he gave.
Yeah. I remember
So
that.
in one of our even Vijay asked this question to Vijay knew the answer, but he just want for the sake of public you answer and ask that question to Rajiv Malhotra. And to that his answer was very interesting. He said like it's like you going to a gym and watching somebody else doing the exercise. That is a brilliant.
What was the question?
Question is, what was the question, Vijay? Satyanarayana Puja, it's like a social gathering. If I just go there and a priest do the puja without me paying any attention, what is going to happen? I'm just watching.
Family puja, pretty much.
Yeah.
I have to go over tomorrow.
No. You don't take it another way. You have to go. You have to practice.
But you need this before you go.
One problem with when you start the Upanishad is suddenly you develop some completely rebellious attitude. You will say that the temples are bad. So,
Perfect, right? You could say, if I am going to Satyanarayana Puja, I'll pay attention to
yeah,
that.
exactly. So, interestingly, the same question was asked to the singer Yeshudas the other day, right? You substitute to be a big follower of the Advaita Vedanta, then why are you going to Mukambika on your birthday every day, right? So his answer was very interesting, right? Advaita Vedanta tells me that I can see, when I see a stone or a light or a lamp or a cow or a human being, I should see Mukambika there. I am not at there. Till then I will go there. I'm trying to get there.
Good one.
Very good answer, right? So that's what. So don't be rebellious. Because the problem with the Upanishad is the moment you start studying Upanishad, you will start criticizing everything. That's not the intent at all.
But initially that's what happens, you go through that phase.
Yeah, you will go through that phase. Because you will see that all these things are superstitious, you will see.
Yeah.
I do that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the goal of me is not to pull anybody from the tradition. Absolutely not. Okay. So the famous quote in this particular Upanishad is Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahma. Again, one of the Mahavakya. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihat means big. Aranyaka means forest. Like a big forest. So this is generally said that this is one of the most important Upanishad. I don't know why, but tradition says that. So this has 3 parts or kandas. The first part is called Madhu Kanda, and then Muni Kanda, and then Kila Kanda. These are the 3 different portions of this Upanishad. So the Madhu Kanda, which expounds the teachings of the basic identity of the relationship between the individual to the absolute. That's what Madhu Kanda talks. It's the same thing, Tattvamasi, what is being expounded. The Muni Kanda, it just gives the philosophical justification of why individual equal to the total. Logical explanation using Nyaya. So, how the Western science proves something. It uses a school of logic. And from where that school of logic comes? It's the Greek school of logic. That's what we do, right? All the or, and, not, all those things comes from the Greek tradition. Like that, we had a logic system, which is called Nyaya. You heard different Nyayas, right? Arundhati Nakshatra Nyaya. Like that, there are different. Like, you cannot spot a star, so what do? You spot a nearby star, and then with respect to that star, you see the other one. Like that, there are different logics. Like that, if there is a smoke, you can infer that there is a fire. That is another logic. There are different, brilliant logic. So this uses that logic to prove that my identity with the universal intelligence. Then the Kilakanda, which talks about the certain modes of upasanas, like some meditation techniques, some prayer technique. Because one is proving that I am Brahman. Second thing is, how do I get that experience? So that's the third part. This is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And this Vedanta's uniqueness is, it comes up with some learning models. That is the uniqueness, because the same teaching you can find in other scriptures also. But the learning models are very unique. And one of the learning model is Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. That is introduced by this Upanishad. We saw that in the Bhagavad Gita class, right? Remember I said how to study Gita? We spent one day. Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. That model comes from this Upanishad. So the quote is, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Anybody and everybody quotes this. This comes from Brihadaranyaka. The world is relative. Mithya means not illusionary, right? Please keep that in mind. You cannot ignore the world. You will have to pay the mortgage. You will have to pay the bills. Otherwise somebody will come and you cannot say that it is Mithya and go. So Mithya means relative. That's it. There is a relative existence. Brahma Satyam means it's absolute. But this is very powerful.
I think these the three orders of reality probably.
Right. It comes from here. So these are the 10 Principal Upanishads. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. So we have seen a bird eye view of the Upanishads. Not everything. Even I could not put any history of the Upanishads. You sent me some note. I also read that. I couldn't do that. How this translation went from Sanskrit to Persian, Persian to Latin, Latin to German, German to Transcendentalist here. All that is there. I couldn't touch about that. But just wanted to mention, the person who translated 50 Upanishads from Sanskrit to Persian was Dara Shukro. Muhammad Dara Shukro, who was the son of Shah Jahan, was the elder brother of Aurangzeb, but unfortunately he was killed by Aurangzeb. But his translations were very famous, and this got translated into Latin from his Persian translation. And that Latin translation got into European translation. And so many people got inspired. But that's just an FYI. So let's recap. We saw Upanishad, we had a very brief introduction. We said like brilliant poetry, one of the greatest literatures of the world. Anybody who invested that time, they never said no to this. This thought-provoking things means the reading of the Upanishad can provoke a lot of positive thoughts. Everybody agrees to this. So the question is, what is this Upanishad? We saw two different meanings. One is, it's called a particular set of knowledge, right? A definite knowledge of yourself. That is the meaning. A definitive knowledge about yourself. Any book that deals with that subject can be called as Upanishad on a broad sense. This is the explanation of Shankaracharya given in the Kathopanishad. The second explanation is, you have to learn this under the guidance of a teacher, under the supervision of a teacher. And the relevance of Upanishad in the modern world, it reveals about myself. It helps you to understand myself, which is the most important for anybody. So that's why the relevance is. And this is part of the Vedas. And the Vedas has 4 parts: mantra or samhita, brahmanas, which is the practice of these rituals, and aranyaka, which is a philosophical interpretation of these rituals, And then you have the Upanishad, which is the end portion of the Veda, which talks about yourself. That is what it is. And then Upanishad is one of that four. And then we said that the end portion of the Veda is known as Vedanta, and Upanishad belongs to that category. And Vedanta is not just limited to Upanishads, it goes beyond Upanishad. Any book or subject matter dealing with this particular subject matter of the Upanishad are broadly called as Vedanta. In that definition, Bhagavad Gita and the Prakarana Granthas of Shankara can be called like that. And we talked about the number of Upanishads, 200 plus are there, but ideally the tradition identified 108 of them, and out of that 10 of them are known as Principal Upanishad, because Shankaracharya, after his analysis, found that by studying these 10 Upanishads, you get the complete picture. Then we saw the authorship. The dates are unknown. A few of the Upanishads we know that it is before Christ, but after that we have no idea. Authorship, unfortunately, no idea. And then the Upanishads are presented in the form of a dialogue, samvada between different rishis, and the 10 Upanishads we saw, and we saw a brief summary of each of these 10 Upanishads. I will send you this PowerPoint, yeah, so that's where it is. Let's stop here.